I wanted to explain in a quote unquote face-to-face mode that about what I'm looking for in discussion post. So I thought it would just be easier to give you slides. So the expectations, these are the basics. First of all, correct spelling and punctuation. These are called conventions. And when I tell you in your feedback that you have a conventions error, that means spelling, punctuation, capitalization, those kinds of things. So it's the writing mechanics, so to speak. And the thing is I know that students know how to do this because they do it occasionally or sometimes. If there's a student that has repeated conventions errors, if it's the same thing over and over, I try to correct that because you must not know that this is wrong if you do it over and over in the same post. But if you, for example, do not capitalize the letter I when you say I am a girl, then if you don't capitalize that I, then I know if you do that repeatedly, I know that you don't know that I is supposed to be capitalized because it is a name for you. It's a pronoun, but it's a name for you. If you do it sometimes and you don't do it other times, well, I just know it's, just either not paying attention or, laziness. So I look for those things, and they are important. You may not put end marks, periods, exclamation points, question marks at the end of sentences when you text, but you have to do that in discussion post, because when you are writing, if you are writing in any kind of setting, an email, at work, or in the future, and your emails maybe all that somebody knows about you, they may never meet you, but all they see are your emails, they're going to think, oh my gosh, this person can't spell, they don't know how to punctuate, which means if they don't know how to do that, then probably they don't know a lot about anything. So it makes a bad impression. So you might as well go ahead and write your discussion post in a grammatically correct way, because that is a good habit to be in. Capitalizing the sentence, the first letter in the first word of a sentence. Oh my gosh, you've been knowing that since the first grade, and I don't understand how students don't do that. So those are things that I'm looking for. Complete sentences that make sense. Complete sentences meaning a subject and a verb. That is the basic part. Don't give me abbreviations. These are not text, so you don't have LOL or OMG. Don't abbreviate people as PPL, those kinds of things. And that is important. So this is just a meme. Let's eat grandma, and then let's eat grandma. And so there's a book called Eat, Shoots, and Leaves, and it's all about punctuation. It's a picture book, but this is the same kind of thing. This is where the comma makes a huge difference. Let's eat grandma. So you're going to eat grandma for dinner, or let's eat grandma. You're telling grandma, let's go ahead and eat. So a comma can make a huge difference. For your original post, research the topic or prompt. Make sure you know what you're talking about. And students don't realize that even in discussion posts, and they may think it's just busy work, but that is not the case. If it's done right, it's a great way to learn the topic without even really realizing you're learning it, because you're talking about it repeatedly and you're having to read about it repeatedly. So it's a great way to learn without memorizing. I try to, hopefully nobody has to memorize anything anymore. Particularly in history, people always say I hate history because I have to memorize dates. Well, not really anymore. You have to have time frames and those kinds of things. But I want you to know the trends, and I want you to know the quote unquote big picture, not specifics. But this is where you are learning a lot about the topic through your research and through the discussion. So it's not just busy work. And I try to post thoughtful responses and videos and images and websites to help you, to give you more information. Whether anybody looks at it or not, I don't know. But I do try to extend your knowledge some in my post. Another good idea is when you're reading other students' posts, look to see what they do. Do they say, I agree, or good job, and that's all? Well, that's probably not the model you want to follow. If you look at my responses, you don't have to write responses as long as I do for sure. But you need to look at my responses and model yours after that. The rubric will tell you your original post should be 200 words, which is pretty long. It should be at least 5 sentences, at least. I mean, this is a whole grade here. So I'm not going to give you a great grade if you write 1 sentence and it might be, good job, I agree. I'm not going to give you a great grade for 4 words. There was no effort there and you learned nothing. So I do look at that when I'm grading. So for your original post, research your topic, include factual information. Okay, so give us the basics. Then analyze the information. We want to know what you think about it. Do you agree? Do you disagree? How do you think it changed the history of our country? Tell us something you thought about the person while you were reading or the event, and follow that rubric. The rubric is where to start, and then you go from there, and then I will give you more feedback. As this term goes on, my grading becomes more stringent, okay? So I expect basics from you in discussion 1. By discussion 15, you should have had plenty of time to get feedback, to ask questions, and so I expect more from you after the 15th discussion than I did on the first. So that doesn't mean to blow off the first 2 discussions. That just means that my grading becomes stricter as I go through the term. Response post. So how? What do I do? Read the original post written by another student. That's the start. Respond thoughtfully. What did you think about when you were reading that student's post? Ask yourself, do you agree with the student or not? If you don't, explain why and support your reasons. You can be very respectful. We do not have to all agree. You don't have to agree with me. You can say, I don't agree with that, and this is why. And that is fine. You have to be respectful, and you have to support your reasoning. But just everybody agrees, well, that's not too interesting. So it's actually more interesting if you do express disagreements or differences of opinion, those kinds of things. If you agree or if you don't agree, add other information that you learned or that you found interesting or that might have been controversial. Explain those things. It doesn't take that much time, and it makes a big difference. Everybody has to work together in a discussion. That's one of the beauties of online discussions, is that everybody has a say, whereas in a classroom setting, maybe 3 people respond and everybody else sleeps or sits on their phones. In an online class, this is a great part for instructors, is that everybody has to respond and everybody has to think about it, and we get to hear from everybody. So that's a really good perk of online courses. What else can you do? Write at least the minimum number of sentences. They need to be thoughtful and substantive, meaning give us information. Don't say I agree or I disagree or those kinds of things. Write more than that. Add a video or a website or other facts. You can ask questions of the students, of other students, but don't just ask the question and leave it at that, because that's not going to get you anywhere. You can ask a question as a part of a post, but you know, just asking questions throughout the term is not going to get it. You need to provide more information. So more do's and don'ts. Spend time writing posts. Ideally, write your original post and then come back later in the day or the next day or the next day and post your responses. Don't critique fellow students' posts. That's my job. Don't say you should have done X, Y, Z to make this a better post, or I wish that you had included more details. That isn't your job. My job is to critique. Your job is to talk back and forth with each other. So post that is critiquing someone else is going to not get there's not going to get any points from me. There's not going to be no credit added for that, because that's not your job. It's my job. So this is what I see. This is what you guys need to see too, is that what I see when I am grading your discussions. I see all of your discussions all at once in the same screen, and I can see the timestamps on these, the date and the time. I marked this one out, it doesn't matter, but I can see the timestamps, so I know how much time you put into these responses. Also, you can agree all day long, add more information. This student gets some credit for this, for sure, but more information would be helpful, and more information would be helpful. But that's a decent start. But those timestamps, and this is what students, I think they don't understand. I see all the discussion posts all at once, and I can see where the timestamps and the dates were. So that helps me to know how much time you put into each of the responses or the original post and those kinds of things. So that's another beauty for instructors of the online setting, is that we can see. It's very transparent. You can see and we can see. So it's transparent on everybody's part, and the accountability is there. So anyway, that is a little bit to help. Check the feedback in your grades. Unless you have a 100 on a discussion board, unless you have 100, there will be feedback there to tell you what I deducted points for. So that will help you to improve the next time. I find that there are students who we may be at the midterm or later, and they still don't know that I have put feedback in for any discussion they didn't make a 100 on. So read that feedback. It's there for a reason. Okay? If you have questions about the feedback or about your grade, make sure you ask, because I can tell you what the issue is. And that's how I have found out that students don't know that there's feedback there. So anyway, I hope that helps some. And